Hi, this is Matt. I'm recording a quick video on my game system Res. Res started out in October 2021 as a weekend project to replace Twine, which was starting to annoy me, and 2 years later it's almost ready to do so. So through the medium of presenting a really crappy game I've made, I'm going to hopefully persuade you that Res actually is pretty cool and maybe something you could use for a game yourself. So here's my game. It starts with a form for my name. I type my name in, and I'm now into the main game. We use Bulma CSS here, so I'm using Bulma multi-column layout. So you can see we have the regular sort of sidebar here, and then the main content. And my game is very simple. So if you're familiar with sort of Starforged, Ironsworn, I'm rolling a skill check. So I rolled a 2. Slightly different. I made it so it's as long as it's equal, you win. Anyway, so usually I hit, most of the time I miss. Okay, so I missed, and what you'll notice now is I've missed enough that a new link has appeared. So I've lost 1 times too many. I am the worst. Yes, pretty bad, 20%. That's not great. If I click this link, it starts again. It takes me back to the beginning, and so it goes. So I doubt you'll disagree with me that this is a pretty crappy game. However, it is doing some interesting things, I think, and I'm going to explain how it's doing them now. So the first thing to note is, in this case, we've got sort of a series of content. As you do things, it collects content, but also that things are changing here. So when I click this link, this content actually changes to represent the thing I've done. This box up here is only displayed once I've actually taken a swing, and contains some content, including the name I put in earlier. So there's a bunch of stuff going on here. Let's see how it happens. So if I go to the source code, so this is the Res source code for this game. So Res is written in an editor as source, and this is the source for this game. Let's see what we've got. So every game has a game element. So elements are things with ats at the beginning. So game, begin and end, bracket, an element. So we have a game element with a bunch of attributes in it and some content like scenes and cards and actors, which we'll come back to in a second. So attributes, so we have attribute name, column, value. You'll notice there's no commas going on here or semicolons. We don't need those. We auto-generate an IFID. Obviously I won't be registering this game. But the interesting things are the initial scene. So this says this game starts with the scene with ID of intro. So this hash symbol here is an ID. So this starts with the game intro. And we have a layout here. And this is what's called a template attribute. It uses these backticks, which often are used to represent code. And you can see we have an expression in here, $content. In layouts, content is the stuff that goes inside the layout. So games contain scenes. So $content says insert inside this Bulma container the content of the scene. And the first scene is the intro scene. So where's that? So here we have the element scene, intro, begin and end. This scene's not really doing very much. Now, Res requires that you have a scene, but if you wanted, you could just have one and run the whole game through it. But if it made sense to, you can have multiple scenes to kind of break up how the game is put together. So in this case, scene uses layout mode single. What that means is we display one card at a time. Each time we play a card, it replaces the previous card. And again, we have a layout here which just embeds content. For the scene, content will be the card, and the initial card here is name form. So let's have a look at the card element here. So this is a card. You can think of cards as being roughly equivalent to a Twine passage, although they're doing a little bit more work under the scenes. So here again we have the content template. You can use Markdown, but I'm choosing to use HTML because I want to use Bulma styles. And I've made this a template, although actually in this case there isn't any. There are no template expressions to be interpolated. But the template process is pretty fast, so in fact actually this is really no slower than just making it a string. So here we have a form which looks pretty standard. The one thing you'll notice here is how it has a res live attribute, What that means is when res sees a form with res live, it says, right, okay, wire this form up to this card. And the mechanism for that is the form name turns into an event handler. So here we'd have this on name form attribute of this card, which is a JavaScript arrow function. Event handlers are written as arrow functions. You'll see down here we have some attributes which use regular functions. The difference is the event handlers get passed an object. In the regular functions, this refers to the object. Anyway, detail. So what this means is by setting res live here, when you submit this form, it will look for on name form, and on name form is an event handler which basically pulls the name out of the form content. It uses, so in the grand tradition of this type of thing, dollar is the function that looks up IDs and turns them into objects. So this will say, give me the object with ID player. Well, happily we have an object ID player here, and set its name property to the name from the form. And then all event handlers return an object which tells the system what to do next. So in this case, we have a scene key which says scene play name, play game. What this means is when the event handler finishes, it will start the play game scene, which is down here. Now, there's a little bit more going on in here. So in the first place, so we say try your luck is the first card, but this is using the stack layout, and that corresponds to this stack of content here. So instead of just displaying the content of one card here, it's displaying the content of many cards. If I was to change this to single and to recompile the game and run it again, this would work rather differently. So this would now be one card at a time. However, by making the layout stack layout, we get automatic capture of each card as it's played. One of the things you'll notice though is when I click this link, this card actually transforms itself. When I click this link, the card transforms itself. If we didn't do that, when you click the link and the next card was added, you would still have all of the links back here, which wouldn't make a lot of sense. So the way res works in stack mode is when we use the stack layout, cards get flipped. So each time a new card is played, the previous card gets flipped. What does that? Well, if I have a look at this card, so this is the card that's presenting this interface, we have content, which is the main content that's shown when the card is played, and then we have a separate flipped content attribute. When the card gets flipped over, we render the flipped version of the card. So in this case, we have take a swing here, which is this, and then the flipped content tells us the result of taking a swing. I'll roll. So we have a stack which is flipping cards over, and we're using Bulmer columns here just to present the sidebar in left hand side and content in right hand side. So we've got this template expression here that says insert the content of sidebar, but where's sidebar coming from? Well, the blocks attribute is basically saying find me the card with ID sidebar, pre-render it, and make it available inside the template. So I'm saying the sidebar block should be available, and it is. Let's have a look at the sidebar block. So the sidebar block has content here which uses a couple of interesting features. So we have conditional expressions. The template expressions in res are basically stolen from liquid markup. So it's not liquid markup, but it will look a bit like liquid markup, and it's definitely inspired by, copied from liquid markup. So here we basically say, okay, if the player has played at least one round, we want to display this hero section. But where's player coming from? How does it know what player is? Well, in this case, we have a bindings attribute, and we can supply a table of bindings which say, okay, player variable, basically bind it to the player object. And that then makes the player object available in the template. So we have conditionals, and then we have substitution expressions like this one. Again, this is basically derived from liquid markup. So we take an initial expression, player win percentage, and then we pass it through a series of filters. So we have the round filter to round to 0 significant figures, turn to a string, and append a percent Now, I could just as easily have put % here and not done that, and that would have worked just the same. And again, we can nest conditional templates inside other conditional templates. So there's some stuff going on here, and then we have this intro link in the sidebar. Now, this is a card link. Clicking this plays another card. This is called a scene link. So this chevron here basically says, when you click this link, called start again, run the scene intro. And you can see here, if I click this, it goes back to the intro scene with the form. So we've got the sidebar here, and then we've got the content here, and this try your luck card is being played in here. And we've got a couple of links here which again look a little bit like twine links but work differently. So the first one, take a swing, basically is saying run the roll event. So star roll says when you click take a swing, run the roll event. What does that mean? So here we have an on roll handler, which again is an arrow function. So when you click this link, it runs this event handler, and that decides what happens next. So because we want to display the data about your roll, we're going to assign to the card the values of rolling the dice. Again, we get the player, so we get player skill, and then here we decide what the handler is going to do. So if the total is greater than the two d10s, we return this object. So if you remember what I said, event handlers return an object. In this case, I'm returning an object with a key card, hit. And what that means is if the total is greater than those, the next thing that will be run is the card hit will be played, and otherwise the card miss will be played. And here's the card hit, which says you hit, and this is a pretty much a bog standard twine link title and which card to play next. So you hit, or in this case you missed. The play again link says try your luck, which goes back to the try your luck card. So that card gets played again in the stack. But what you'll notice is this link, you can see there's nothing here. Where's this link coming from? So this is an example of a dynamic link. If I can get just lose again. Okay, so here we have this dynamic link has appeared. So how does that work? So star secret link, the star without a title says this is a dynamic link, and we're looking for secret link as a card attribute, and here is the secret link attribute, which is a function that takes a link. This is actually under the hood a link object, and it has three methods: allow, hide, and deny. So what we're doing is when this template is being rendered, if the player's played at least 5 games and has won over 70% of their games, we run link.allow with this text, which becomes the title, and this, which is the card played when you click this link. If you've won less than 40, you get this link with this title that runs the loser card. So here we go, I do this, and the loser card gets played, which is just a simple card saying, you're the worst, I'm the worst. Otherwise, we hide the link. So link.hide basically means don't show anything at all. What I can do is turn it into a deny. So if I recompile the game and run it again, you can see that this link has appeared straight away, but is actually not a link. It's not clickable. So you can imagine, let's say in your game, you're in a dark alleyway and there's something the player can do, but they can't do it until they can see it. So you could imagine this would be, if their flashlight is not turned on, hide this link altogether. If the flashlight is turned on, display the link. Or it could be that you want them to know that there's something, but not at that time. So maybe it's I don't know, like a bar which isn't open yet. So you could use a secret link, a dynamic link rather, to say it doesn't open until, I don't know, 3 in the afternoon. So the link would be there as a clue, but not clickable, and then at the right time it turns into a link. So we've got here an event link which can do anything, and a dynamic link which decides whether it should be displayed or not. And again, in the try luck card, the flipped content is showing what you roll. So here we're saying take a swing, and here we're showing how that played out. So this event has been run, this card will get flipped over and will show exactly what happened. So that's really kind of how it works and what's behind it. Obviously this is a pretty duff game, but the concepts that I'm using, hopefully you could imagine how you could build something interesting with this. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I just haven't gone into here. I mean, I'm using an actor here to keep score, which really is the very least of what an actor can do. And there's a whole bunch of other elements like items and inventories and stuff, which I'm not even touching here. But this gives you an idea of sort of the basic principle of how you put a game together and how you use some of the concepts. So I hope you found this interesting, and I hope maybe you'll give Res a look. Thanks for watching.